What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Ion Motive Podcast. I'm Ian Kendrick, your host. Thanks for joining me today. I'm happy to be back. Let's get started. As you might have noticed from the title, today I'm going to be talking about two distinct ways I deal with my anxiety. Not proven psychologically, or they haven't been tested. Actually, maybe they could have. I don't know. These are just things that work for me, so all these thoughts, unless quoted otherwise, are my own. The two distinctive ways I deal with my anxiety are both very different. So the first one, very obvious, just go right at it. Attack the anxiety. Much easier to say than do, and sounds like, oh yeah, pretty obvious idea, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to talk a little more in depth about it later, because I think it's the quickest way to overcome anxiety, and oftentimes the more effective strategy to overcome anxiety that's harsh, severe, and strikes at a moment's notice. And the second way, creating a purpose-filled path. What does that mean? Again, I'll go into detail a little bit deeper on that. Actually, quite a bit deeper, but that way is also insanely helpful. I've used this way to deal with my anxiety more long-term, things that are prolonging, things that just bug me much more. Not as severe, but much more long-term. So now that I've mentioned the two ways I deal with my anxiety, let's dive into them both a little bit deeper. The first way, attacking the anxiety and just going straight at the uncomfortable situation, the anxiety-provoking situation. Pretty easy to say, but oftentimes very uncomfortable and very difficult to implement. However, for me, I found if I can do this, it's the quickest way to overcome anxiety. It's very effective. It sucks to do, but it works if you can get yourself to do it. To make it a little more clear, I think it's kind of like climbing a mountain. So you're working towards this peak, right? You're working your way up, and as you get closer to the peak of the mountain, or in this case, the peak of the anxiety, maybe the situation that causes the anxiety, it gets really, really difficult to keep going, to keep pushing yourself. It even gets hard to breathe at times, right? You get so anxious, it gets hard to breathe. However, if you can get over that crest, get over the peak, over the most anxiety-provoking moment, you can work your way down. It's going to become much easier. Your breathing literally will start to normalize again, and you overcome the issue. It might take more than one time. It may take many times. But if you can get over the peak, it becomes much easier to do. So, for example, I know I suck at talking about how I'm feeling related to my mental health. I have a hard time expressing my emotions. I have a hard time just sharing what I'm feeling, especially when it's things that I need to talk about. So what did I do to overcome or attack this issue? I literally created this page, Ion Motive, where I talk about my anxiety. I talk about my OCD. I talk about things that bug me, even if they're things that haven't bugged me anymore, or things that currently are bugging me. That's hard to do, and I don't like doing it at times, but because I'm doing it, I'm much more confident because I'm being vulnerable. I'm sharing how I'm feeling, and I can honestly say I'm more comfortable talking about my mental health now to close friends and family, or even just anybody in general. So by me attacking the situation, just going head on, it sucked to do at first. Like I said, my first podcast, I actually bashed it. I actually kind of bashed it in my my second podcast, the first official one. But it was I got it out there, and I'm happy I did. I said it sucked, but it's really not that bad. I got it out there, and I overcame that anxiety that I got from talking into a camera and posting it on the internet for anybody who wants to see it. To wrap up this first idea, again, this is very easy to say, very difficult to do, but if you can do it, it will help in situations that are very severe, very instantaneous, maybe shorter term anxiety things, so maybe, public speaking, as I mentioned, whatever it is, things that just cause anxiety at a moment's notice. The second one is a lot more thought out, way more difficult than the first one. Maybe not to do, but just kind of to conceptualize, a little more difficult. So, what is it? Creating a purpose-filled path or a structure for yourself to follow to set yourself where you want to go. So what does that actually mean? I'll give a little context with a Jordan B. Peterson speech I heard. Basically in this speech, I'll put a link down below so you can watch it because it's an awesome speech. But what he says is, what you should do, for your life, the best thing you could do is conceive or think of the best possible thing, whatever that is, and commit your whole life to that, because everything else is unimportant after that. So you should literally dedicate your entire life to this ideal image of yourself, this ideal cause, this ideal goal. And by setting something out in the future to achieve, setting this goal out, you can figure out the necessary steps you need to take to reach this goal. For a personal example, hopefully this clarifies a bit more. But again, like I said, in the last year or two was when my anxiety, my OCD was the worst it had been in probably over a decade. The hardest thing was I didn't really know what the problem was. There wasn't one thing that was bugging me all the time. Like I said, I would just have this prolonged anxiety that pretty much bothered me a majority of the time. And it was really bothering me because I couldn't figure out what was wrong. But I knew I wanted to feel better. So I set this image of myself of where I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be happier. I wanted to be more confident in who I was, confident in being myself, and I wanted to be more open with my mental health. So now that I set out this good that I can reach, I could make steps and follow those steps to reach that goal. So some of the things I did included making motivational videos, which you can find on YouTube, on Ian Kenrick Edits. Had a lot of fun doing those. Probably will do them in the future, but for right now I want to work on these podcasts and these videos, these Ion Motive episodes. So I would do that. I would listen to music. I would listen to podcasts about self-improvement, self-development. I would read books about business because I love stocks and investing and things like that. So I was pushing myself to this goal because I was following steps that made me more confident, made me happier, made me more open with my mental health. So this goal gave me a sense of direction. While it gave me steps to follow, it also showed me things I didn't need to do or things I could disregard. So if there was an anxiety-provoking event that was coming into my life, whatever it was, if it wasn't in alignment with that goal, if it didn't follow those steps, or it wasn't one of those steps to push me towards my goal, I could just disregard it. If it didn't need to be addressed, I would just pretty much let it go because it wasn't on the path for me. If this is still a little confusing, think about it this way. If you want to feel your best or look your best physically, you got to work out, right? You got to eat good, you got to exercise, you got to do all those things. You got to get good sleep to, get six-pack abs, whatever you want, big muscles, toned legs, whatever. So if you do something like eat a candy bar, it takes you off that path and it slows you down from reaching that goal. So just follow the path, disregard the candy bar, do the things that push you towards that goal, that direct you towards it. To this day, I continue to use this strategy. It makes me feel great. I love doing it. It's been really helpful for longer nagging anxiety that doesn't seem to have a cause or can be disregarded. There are times where we need to address anxiety and there are times where we need to disregard it. So for me, I found if I need to address it, I use the first strategy. I just gotta go right at it and get over it. So it doesn't bother me as long. If I just get over the peak of anxiety, then it won't bother me more long term and I can just get through it. But if it's something that can just be disregarded, an anxiety event that is just bothering me for whatever reason, it's just there all the time and I just need to let it go, then I use the structure-filled path to overcome that problem. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen or watch this Ion Motive episode. I hope it was of some value to you. If you really enjoyed it, I ask that if you're watching it on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you're listening to it on podcast, please leave a review and subscribe as well. I got some good news. I'm making a blog covering the same topics as these Ion Motive episodes, and it will be available in the next week. So if you want to read these articles or read on these topics, you can do that as well. And I'll post on my Instagram or Facebook when that's finally up, but it will be up very, very soon. Until next time, always remember, live a charged life.